I've been, going through all. Okay. You're unmuted. Okay, why isn't it working?
I can hear you on mine.
Oh, you can hear me? You can hear me?
Yep.
But I can't hear. But I can't hear. Okay, here it is. Hello?
This is
Okay,
Franny.
Okay, here, I can hear. Franny, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay, good. And you can, so you're cool, right? Okay. Okay, well, that's all good. Okay, we're cool now. Okay, well, we're just waiting for the, okay, so is that gonna give you a backup? Should I go to another room? I think I'll go to another room. Are you cool to do that? But is that too close?
I do hear the feedback, yes.
Okay, what about now?
Well, there's some echoing. I don't know.
Okay, let me go.
Another speaker.
Okay, do you hear any feedback now?
No, it's better.
Okay, Matt, are you cool now? Matt, are you cool now?
Yes.
Okay, is there any feedback?
No, it sounds good.
Okay, perfect. I figured out yesterday, Franny, that I could do this on my, even though I don't have a camera or a microphone on my home computer, I have it's all set up on my cell phone, but I never figured that out.
Why don't you have a camera on
Because
your
I don't,
computer?
because I never got one, because I never needed one.
But there's a little dot at the top of your, do you have a laptop at home?
Whatever it is, I had to order something and it's coming on Friday.
Oh, okay.
Because when
I'm
it
on
was
my
set
phone,
up, I didn't.
so I'm just seeing one person at a time.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hello.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Barbara.
Who's in the corner there?
We should have, right now we've got Barbara, Franny, the mayor, Paul Corcoran. Paul, can you hear?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, so Paul is the rep from Member Splash.
Okay.
We've got Steve, Linda, Jack Frink is called in, and Morris is here.
Okay, so it's 2:30 and we have a quorum, correct?
Well, where's Marnie?
Somebody should call her. Someone please call her because we need to start the meeting.
Let me
Okay.
make sure she's not emailing.
I love that Matthew looks very professional, even though he's obviously at home.
Yeah.
No, he's not at home. He's at the town hall.
Oh, okay. So he is wearing
Local,
pants.
local governments are exempted from the shut-in.
All right.
So Matt, why don't you mute everybody
Okay,
and we'll wait for the council president.
okay.
I'm sending her a message now.
Oh, I just got it. I'm admitting her now.
Okay.
Okay.
So we've got
Hey, there she is.
a couple of new people joining us.
Okay. Okay. Well, So we have the council, and we have one of the vendors right now. So I'm going to call the special meeting of the Somerset Town Council to order. This meeting is being held to consider several items that were discussed at the regular April Town Council meeting, but for which more information was needed. So before I call the first item, is the town attorney on the phone?
I am. I'm here.
Thank you. And is the chair of the Board of Elections on the call?
Don't think we quite have Phyllis yet.
Okay, so that's not the first item, so if Linda could call her to get her, to be sure to get her on the call, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so before I call the first item, I do want to, I believe I'm supposed to state for the record that this call is being recorded. It is, Mr. Town Attorney, is there anything else that I'm supposed to announce at this time?
No, that's it, Mr. Mayor. Just
Okay,
so that
thank you.
participants know if they make any comments, they will be part of the record.
Correct. Okay, thank you. So the first item is consideration of member splash for town pool membership database and software at a cost of $5,000. We have a representative from Member Splash, Paul Corcoran, on the call with us to answer council questions regarding the service. First, Mr. Town Manager, would you like to present the item and then invite Mr. Corcoran to make whatever presentation he'd make, and then we will go for a round of questions from the council. Mr. Town Manager.
Sure, thank you. I'm also going to unmute Matt Zaft, who is the chair of the town's pool committee. So I'll give him an opportunity if he wants to add anything. But we've discussed this item a couple of times, I think, over the past year. We currently use iGoFigure for the town's database and pool software program for when people enter the pool and take classes at the pool. And one of the vendors that was recommended to us to replace the current one that we have is Member Splash, which has a pretty robust clientele throughout the country. I've attached our quote that was given to us from Member Splash in the form of email correspondence, as well as a description of the premium package that we would be having. And I, along with the pool committee, are recommending contracting with Member Splash, mainly because of the capacity to handle the different types of membership and charges that people occur for the different classes and various levels of things that people do at the pool, as well as several other features that it has, including setting up our own website for pool database, pool entry and profiles. And it also could possibly be used for our tennis courts as well, which is something that's been asked by the tennis committee, is to be able to sign up for time at the tennis courts as well, digitally. So I will turn it over to Matt Zaft, who, as I mentioned, is the chair of the town's pool committee, if he has anything to add, and then I'll turn it over to Paul Corcoran if he has anything else that he would like to add, and then the council can feel free to ask any questions of myself or Paul.
Yeah, I don't have really much else to add, except that we really, really hope you do it.
Okay, Mr. Corcoran, thank you so much for joining us from I think it's California. Is there anything you wanted to add to the presentation?
I think at this point, well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you. I know I was originally on the agenda for the 10th meeting, and coronavirus seems to have impacted internet as well as humans. So we're having difficulties. Hopefully things are coming through clear. Everyone can hear me okay and see me okay. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. So before I turn it over to the council for questions, there is an announcement that first of all, I want to thank our incredible town manager for the time he took to prepare for this meeting. And he did prepare a statement that I'm supposed to read. It was more elaborate than what I said earlier. So I would like to read it. As a reminder to residents and participants, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the town website. We will allow for comments after the council has had a chance to discuss the agenda items. We ask that audience members please hold questions until you've been called on and to use the raise hand feature if you would like to speak. Before you make your comments, please state your name and the street that you live on for records keeping purposes, and please limit comments to 2 minutes. What's going to happen is, so after each presentation, then the council will go around the council to see if they have questions of the presenters. And then if they don't have any questions, then we will, if anyone raises their hand, residents or guests can ask a question or make a comment. And when that is over, then the council will deliberate and make a decision. So with that, I would like to call on Council President Shaw for any questions regarding the member splash item.
Thank you. I'm really happy to have Member Splash on the phone today. I've been, as a non-tech person, supporting the notion of this contract for 2 years in a row, but I would like to know how we are assured that if there are any issues as we go along, we'll be able to get the kind of help we want from a distance.
Right, understood. So I'm Paul Corcoran, and I live on Marblehead Bay Drive. I don't know if that was supposed to apply to me, but
No, not to you. Thank you.
So in terms of support, and I'm sure Matthew's aware of this, we're a small company, so we don't have, there's the good and bad, we don't have an extensive number of people to apply, but the people that we do apply to any service-related or implementation-related issues are all Member Splash employees. We all know this system inside and out. So from the perspective of the quality of support, it's extremely good. The other thing I would say is that we do have normal support hours that are sort of, standard business hours for the East Coast. Understanding though that pool operations extend obviously on weekends, holidays, and everything else. That's a really basic part of our support strategy, which is when we have particularly an urgent outage, you can raise a ticket, and it's the appropriate mechanism is to use the ticketing system, because we will get a sort of an all hands on deck indication that we need to immediately jump on a problem. So our focus is always going to be determined by what your needs are. And I think you'd find based on any discussions you've had with our other customers that support is something we're actually very proud of.
Thank you.
Is that it, Madam President?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Councilmember Zoe Hazard, do you have any questions?
I do, yes, it's nice to meet you from afar.
Great meeting
And
you.
I noted that you mentioned that you were having internet problems since the coronavirus. And I wonder if you've tried the system since the coronavirus. If the system is fully operational, or if that is also being affected by the virus.
No, that's a great question. And the reality is that the system does rely on internet connectivity in order to do member check-ins and other aspects of membership management. Having said that, what we have experienced with a lot of our clubs is that primary internet is generally very reliable. We are in obviously extraordinary circumstances right now. But between standard internet connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity, and the ability to use standard, we'll say, a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot using a mobile device allows not only sort of a primary method of accessing the system, but a secondary method. So there are backup capabilities within the system. I think further, it's worth mentioning that even in the event, let's just say you're front desk and you're doing check-ins, when you first log into the system, it does do a download of the membership that's located within the remote database. So even though it's cloud-based, there will be a local entity or a local version of the database that would allow you to continue to operate check-in members. The only interruption would be the back and forth between the MemberSplash system and the actual cloud database. That synchronization wouldn't happen until the internet service is restored. But it's relatively speaking, your primary concern should be with how can I service my customers who are lining up to come into the pool. And in that case, you do have both a primary and secondary means plus a local version of the database at your disposal.
That was much appreciated. As a follow-up to that then, and I don't know who this is for, but it sounds like we would have to have better internet service at our pool for this to work properly, much better internet service. So is that something that MemberSplash does, or is that something that our town does? And if it's our town, are we prepared to do that?
MemberSplash does rely on our customers to have internet access to the system.
So Councilor Zukauer,
So then
that'll be up to Matt.
Yeah, I think when we do, if we go ahead with this contract, I think once we do the training, we'll have to do some type of testing at the pool site, I think, to make sure that we have the capability to handle it.
The other thing we could do, Matthew, is we do have the potential to, I'll just say, activate a demo platform. If you guys would want to try it out in advance, I could set up a few demo accounts for you to go through the check-in process to make sure that it's functional to the degree it needs to be.
Okay,
And
great.
then my last question is that if I'm not so certain that pools will be opening this summer.
Yep.
And if the pools do not open because of the coronavirus, how does that affect the contract?
I think that's a fair question because, and honestly, every municipality, every club, every homeowners association is having to plan for the contingencies. One of the things that MemberSplash is doing currently, and I'm sure my boss will be disappointed that I put this out right away, which is we are doing some customized contracts this year in light of coronavirus, which essentially we would still charge the implementation fee because we will still incur costs to bring the system up. However, if you do not have a season this year, you would be excused, or this year's cost for the recurring portion of the service would be waived, and we would presumably, then we're going to go in 2021.
So Councilmember Zukauer, this topic was discussed at the Pool Management Committee meeting. So I would like the chair to address that question. Matt, if you could address her question.
Sure. Yeah, and one of the things that we're sort of dealing with right now is this unknown. And American Pools, who is the actual management company, they're coming at it with the approach of, we're going to open. The question is when, not if. And preparing along those lines. And that's sort of the approach we're taking as well. And, it's one of those things where we do have to deal with it on a literally day-by-day basis. But if we open later, there's different contingencies in place. If we don't open at all, just like with, they were talking about with the member splash, we have the same situation with American pools. So I guess the short answer is, from the pool committee and pool management committee's standpoint, we want to be ready to go, assuming we can open. And if we're, whether it's opening May 16th, which would be wonderful, or opening June 1st, or opening June 30th, or opening July 4th, we don't know, but we'd love to be ready, willing, and able to do it whenever we do get that green light, whether it's from the county or the state. And furthermore, having the ability to get the member splash implemented regardless of if we open is, to us, a very good thing. We also look at it as we say, if we get, I would rather have us open May 16th. But if we don't, and we've got an extra 2 weeks or an extra month to implement the software and get everything uploaded, that could be, looked at as a positive, or at least an offsetting. So no matter what regarding the pool itself, we think that we should go ahead with this.
Okay, Councilmember Zurich, does that answer all your questions?
Yes, thank you all so
Okay,
much.
thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Peel.
My only question is for you and for Matt Zaft, which is, I guess, sort of what he started to talk about, and that is, who makes the decision about whether or not the pool opens?
So it starts with the state and, sort of trickles on down. If the state says we're closed, well, then we've got no recourse. If the state says we're open, but Montgomery County says we're closed, well, we got to abide by that. If state says we're open and Montgomery County says it's open, then it comes down to the pool management committee, which is Marnie, Jeffrey, Matt T, and me. And
Don't we need to get an annual certification from the county before we can open an
Well, yeah,
inspection?
so that American Pools handles.
Okay.
So, and that's why, we don't, the four of us don't even come into play until we've gotten the sign off from the state and the county. But American Pools handles sort of everything up until it would get to us.
Okay.
And Councilmember Peel, that was the topic of discussion in our last meeting, and we are meeting within the month to get an update. So we'll let you know.
That's fine. That's my only question.
Oh, good. Do you have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
No.
Councilmember Panner, do you have any questions?
I wanted to follow up on what Barbara had asked, and maybe we already know the answer to this, but the internet connectivity is what concerned me. Before we sign the contract, could we test it? And then I'm happy to approve it conditional on it working. Is there any way to do that? Because I know in the past, we were always a little flummoxed by the inability to operate our previous system due to the lack of internet. And if we have the system but don't have the internet, I've always been worried it won't work.
Right. No, a good question. And I do think we can do adequate testing of the system, assuming that you guys are willing to go to the pool site. I will set up a demo account. Really effectively, all you'll need is whatever your base setup would be from a hardware perspective. So a device with internet access, a laptop or Chromebook or whatever else, and a webcam, and pretty much you'll have everything you need in order to be able to see how does this work given the level of internet access that you have in place today.
That would be great. And then my second follow-up question was just to clarify, and maybe it's partly a comment for Matt too. I do think it would be nice to take advantage of Paul and his company's willingness to be flexible about, payment terms if we don't end up using this. So just if we could, put a pin in that, and I hope it doesn't become necessary, but we appreciate that. And that was all I had.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Circo. Do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Do any of our residents or guests Matt, have our residents or guests indicated an interest in making a comment or asking a question? No. Okay. So hearing none, is anyone prepared to make a motion? Council President Shaw, are you prepared to make a motion?
Yes. I move that we approve the contract with Member Splash for this coming year with the condition that we'll be able to review the payments should the pool not open.
Mhm.
Is there a second?
Can I make a slight amendment to it?
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion? Would you like to make an amendment to the motion?
If I could.
Councilor Panner, yes, now would be the time. What's the amendment?
So Marnie said conditional on the payment terms depending on pool opening, and I would like to say condition on having tested it with our internet system.
Okay, is there a second on the amendment?
I'll second that.
Is there a discussion?
Yeah,
Marnie, do you
I
accept the amendment?
have a question about the amendment, or I have a question to Matt Trollinger, which is the internet connection our responsibility? I mean, it's my understanding that we're the ones who've installed an internet connection, and it's either we've got something that's robust enough or we don't, and that's not really an issue for either iGoFigure or for Member Splash.
Yeah, so we do have an internet account at the pool. We could certainly do means testing. I think to Morris's point, the question would then be, I guess, if we needed to upgrade our internet system, which would then be contingent on further spending approval.
All right, is there further discussion on the amendment?
Yes, I think it makes sense to go forward with the condition that we look at the payment terms, but I think the connectivity part of it should be something that the town works on and not part of the contract.
Okay, is there further discussion on the amendment?
So
Hearing
I
none.
okay.
Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment? So, okay, it's going to be a roll call vote on the amendment.
Okay.
Council President Shaw,
I'm opposed.
Council Member Zuighauser,
Yeah, I'll hope that the town can work it out, and I'll be opposed as well.
Council Member Peel,
That's my reasoning too. Opposed.
Councilmember Panner,
I guess I'm in favor of it.
Councilmember Circo.
I'm in favor of it because there might be
Thank
some
you.
compatibility.
All I need is yes or no. Thank you.
Okay.
So the amendment fails. So now, is there further discussion on the motion?
I don't think I think we're still, now we're talking about whether or not to approve the contract conditioned on the payment flexibility. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? So that was a 5. I'm hearing a 5-0 vote. Thank you
Correct.
very much. Thank you, Member Splash.
Yeah.
I look forward
Thank
to
you, Paul.
working with you. And I also want to thank the outstanding pool committee for their incredible work on this. Okay, the
Jeffrey-
next item.
Jeffrey, I just have a question. I'm not understanding. Did you do, just so that I understand this, for the voting, did you look for us to raise our hand or to say aye, or how
Well,
are we
since I-
doing that?
Since I didn't hear unanimous on the first one, I asked for a roll call. Then on the second one, I heard unanimous, and then I asked the question if it was unanimous. But I'll do a roll call. I think I'm gonna do a roll call vote on the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, the paper that I have has 2 different items, but I'm gonna combine them. So the next item is consideration of the emergency election procedures as recommended by the town's Board of Elections. And the board chair will be making a presentation. It will also be consideration of Electech as the town's election service provider for the 2020 town election at a cost of $4,425 as recommended by the town's Board of Supervisors of Elections. And we do have someone from Electech on the call. So what will happen is, first we will receive a presentation from our chair of our Board of Supervisors of Elections. Then we will receive a presentation by Electech, the proposed election service provider. Then we will, I will take questions from each council member, and then we will, and the questions will be to the board chair and to Electech. Then we will take comments or questions from our residents or guests, and then the council will deliberate and take action on the agenda item. So I will now turn it over to our distinguished, hardworking chair of our Board of Elections, Phyllis Wiesenfelder.
Thank you. I'm assuming everybody has read the emergency plan. It has been composed and recommended. It's a joint collaboration with the Board of Elections, the town attorney, and the town manager. And there were extensive deliberations. So if it's okay, I don't know if I lost Jeffrey, but I will go through the highlights unless, and I'll let
Yes, why don't you do that? That's excellent. Why don't you go through the highlights of the recommendations that, by the way, everyone, as you might know, the board met 2 days ago and for a 2-hour meeting and went over all of this and made recommendations. So and voted on recommendations. So I would like to ask our chair to present the highlights of the recommendations, please.
Okay, so we're changing the election day because of the current situation, emergency situation, to June 9th. And I believe the council approved that at their last meeting. The election will be by mail only, no in-person voting. Items will be emailed to the town. Now, one of the issues that has come up, the nominating by petition procedure, and if somebody would like to be nominated and was not nominated at the April 6th council meeting, there's still time. Petition is due to the town by 4 p.m. on April 20th. The petition does not have to be signed by 20 voters. Voters can email their support to the town, 20 voters. So we're expediting or making the petition process simpler this year. Because of the situation, we are giving residents time to register with the town after May 17th. If you're already registered in the town, you do not have to go through this process again, or registered in the county. However, we are making an unusual or special request that any new residents since May 15th, 2019, fills out a Somerset voter registration card so we can be sure we pick up the voting ability of new residents. So 21 days prior to the election, May 19th, I guess Electech will be sending ballots to town residents. I am going to let them go through the procedure for that. And then the Board of Elections tomorrow at 11 o'clock in an open meeting is going to meet to discuss hosting a candidates forum. That is not in the charter, it's a town tradition. And I might add that the information about holding a forum in the election files, the memo from 1990 and one from 2007. So we don't do these routinely. We've also discussed with the town journal editors expanding the June edition of the town journal to allow residents to do written questions of the candidates and get responses back in writing. And this could be in addition to the forum. I think I'm gonna.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Chair. I greatly appreciate your report. Let me point out to everyone that the topic of the forum and anything to do with the town journal is not a part of the report. That will be a subject of another Board of Elections meeting tomorrow. And before I turn it over to Electech to make a brief presentation, could I ask the town attorney, who worked so closely with the board on the recommendations, if he would like to add anything to the excellent report?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just add, for those who may not have attended the last meeting of the council, pursuant to authority from the governor and an emergency order issued by the governor, the town amended the town charter to allow for the election date and voting methods to be altered given the COVID-19 emergency. So the council indeed amended the charter at the April 6th meeting, and now today, if it passes, we'll adopt an emergency ordinance declaring the state of emergency and adopting the proposed emergency plan for the election that the Board of Supervisors has come up with. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Town Attorney, could you also, because I think this will be a question that council members will ask, could you also please talk about your experience with the other towns that you serviced in terms of what they're doing and and how that might have been the basis of what recommendations you made to our board?
Sure. Yeah. So, at the risk of promoting Electech too much, I'll say Electech's doing quite well right now. Most of my clients are in the same position of you, of course, concerned about having volunteers handle physical ballots, and of course being unable to maintain polling stations in the state of emergency given the governor's stay-at-home order. So my clients are, almost all of them, are going to be conducting elections by mail only, and others are in the position of being able to cancel their elections because the elections are uncontested. And so I represent the town of Chevy Chase, Garrett Park, Martin's Additions, and I believe they will all be using Electech to obtain their assistance with a mail-only election. And the rules that we've adopted are very similar to the rules being adopted by those other jurisdictions. And I believe North Chevy Chase may be doing so as well, or they may be canceling their election because it's uncontested. And Section 3 of the village, I think, is canceling as well. And Section 5. And Glen Echo has no election this year. That's
Okay,
it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Town Attorney. I also want to publicly thank you for the number of hours you spent working on this for Somerset. Now I would like to invite Matthew Lilly of Electech to present. And also I want to thank you for being readily available at such short notice. So
my pleasure, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Lilly,
yeah, you got it. Thank you. All right. Hey, we do appreciate the trust you guys are putting in us. We've been in business since 1983. Our sole purpose and existence is conducting elections for cities and towns throughout the United States. We conduct and support 31 cities and towns in the state of Maryland. And as the previous speaker mentioned, we are doing some of the towns immediately adjacent to Somerset. Our process is very strict. We also do elections for counties throughout the United States as well. So we follow the same procedures as if it was an in-person election, except we conduct it by mail. We take the election database from the county and send, excuse me, everybody gets a ballot with a return envelope. It's all tracked and monitored in terms of who got which envelope. We do maintain secrecy, so inside the envelope, at your option, they have the secrecy envelope, the return envelope with the affidavit, and we have a secure P.O. box that that's designated strictly and solely for the town's use. We monitor that daily. We go with a sealed lockbox. Everything is recorded and preserved. Each day we go and collect the ballots that are there on that day, whatever the time period is and the grace period. At the end of the initial close of polls, we'll provide the town with an interim total, and all the tabulation and separation of the secrecy ballots from the return envelopes is all recorded for transparency and provided with the final result and the final marked ballots back to the township. At the end of the grace period, we'll provide the town with a final report, and then shortly thereafter, we physically maintain custody of and chain of custody of all of the ballots and election materials throughout the whole process. We will hand deliver all those materials back to the town at a given date.
Well,
that's
thank
really
you
a high level
very,
of our process.
that was excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Lilly. And before I take the first question from our council president, Madam Chair, is there anything you wanted to add?
The only other point we had that if on April 22nd or at some point the election is uncontested, right now it's contested, then there's the election will be canceled and there won't be any balloting.
Okay, thank you very much. Council President Shaw, do you have any questions? Maybe she's, Matt, do you think she's muted?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I muted and haven't unmuted her yet, so I
Okay, good.
apologize.
It's okay.
Marnie.
Don't worry about it. We're doing well.
There you
on our
go.
time.
I'm sorry, Marnie.
That's okay.
Council President Shaw, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have one, but I first want to say thank you to everyone who worked so hard to get us to this point. I'm just I want to make sure I understand what the database is that's going to be used for sending the ballots out. I thought I heard Electech talk about the county's roles. I thought in the presentation and writing, we were talking about the town role. So if somebody could just clarify for me.
Okay, the chair can respond to that.
Yes, Electech will get the town of Somerset rolls. They're more accurate than the county rolls, and the town of Somerset voter rolls are updated every year.
So the Board of Elections goes through and updates our rolls. Is that correct?
Yes, because the county rolls includes people who have passed away, people who have moved out of the town 20 years ago.
Okay, that's good. That's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Council Member Zeughauser, do you have any questions?
Yes, first I want to echo Marnie's thanks to everyone that worked so hard on this. My only question is about the petition, because I've noted even with today's meeting, there were problems with the internet and people not getting their packets and some people getting their packets. So I just wondered if Matt could speak to this as to, with a petition, how that will, if there is one, how that will work. In other words, it says that people are supposed to send in emails, but I'm a little worried that emails may not be received. So is there going to be some kind of check?
Councilor, I think that the board chair can respond to that.
Well, will the emails go to the board chair or will they
Well,
go to our
I
town?
think
manager?
let's ask the board chair to respond because I think she knows the answer.
Okay, thank you.
Matt will have to correct me on this if I'm wrong, but this plan envisions a special email, set up election at townofsomerset.com. Is that correct, Matt? That's what the plan envisions?
Yep, exactly. So I have created a email account that is specifically dedicated to the town's election, and so the board of supervisors of election will have access to that special email account that people can send in their petitions and then any questions that they might have on the election. And so it also allows, if somebody were to send it to myself or to Linda or directly to Phyllis, for example, that we can easily just forward it to this specific email.
But I guess my question is, will you confirm with each person who sends something to you that you've received it? That's what I would hope, because there seems to be some trouble these days with people not receiving things. So I would just want to have for you all to send a confirmation, just saying, you know, that the email had been received. I would ask you or Linda or someone to do that.
Okay, let's let Matt, why don't you respond to that? Yeah.
Sure. So so I don't know if that's something that you want specifically added to the election procedures, but or just to say informally, Phyllis, perhaps you and the board, when you are checking that email, that whether you are checking it daily or whatever, that
I think that could be added to that could be added. It sounds like that would be something the council might want to add.
Just to make a point, the petition process is over in a week, so this should probably go out again in the manager's weekly way.
Let me say, Councilmember Zeugenhauser, that as soon as this meeting is over and the decisions are made, the town will be putting out all this information on all of our communications devices. But we couldn't do anything until this meeting.
Understood. Okay, that's my only question, but I would ask that be added. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, when it's deliberated, you might consider adding that. Council Member Peel, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Councilor Panner, do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Phyllis. I did have a question about how the registration worked. If you're a registered voter in, I guess it's Montgomery County, but just in, the normal being a registered voter that entitles you to vote in federal and state elections, are you automatically on our rolls in Somerset?
Yes. The special provision is just my concern, given what's going on, that we won't pick up new residents, even though they could have registered with the county. It's my safety net in case I can't get an updated voter roll in time.
From the county, you mean?
Yes, yeah, correct.
If they're on it, they don't have to worry, even if they forget. You'll send to them anyway, right?
If they are on our list, I'm only worried about the gap year. Does that make sense? I'm going to request a voter rolls from the county as of a certain date. I have to assume they're still working. And this was what if people aren't registered in the county or the county can't send us the rolls. It's only for that small segment of town residents that are new to the town.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand. Thank you.
Is it? No more questions, Councilmember? Councilmember Panner, are you done with your questions?
Thank you, yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Circo, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you for all the work.
Thank you. Mr. Town Manager, has any member of is any resident or guest requested to make a comment or ask a question?
Yes, I have Matthew Zaft has raised his hand, so
Okay, hit it. You have the floor.
Great.
Tell us
Actually,
your name or your street for the record, please.
sure. Matthew Zaft, Dorset Avenue. I have several different questions. I'll try and get them as.
You have 2 minutes. Okay. Wait a minute, before you ask questions, Mr. Town Manager, how many people have asked to speak?
Just Mr. Zaft.
Okay, cool. Try to be brief, Mr.
Yeah. So
Chairman Zaft. Chairman.
All right. The first question has to do with the petition and just stating that given that it is April 15th, we're only dealing with this now and residents are only going to get the information later today. I might ask that the council consider extending the date till further than April 20th to do this, especially since given the history of our town having uncontested elections, many residents might have thought that it would be another uncontested, and if it's going to be contested, someone might want to run rather than not. So that would be my first thing.
Hold on a second. Let's take, I think that question needs to be answered by the town attorney and or the chair of the Board of Elections. Can you please answer the question?
The request or information that you could vote by petition, that was in the town journal.
He's talking about the nomination. He's talking about the nominations.
Yeah, they, not in the April journal. In the March journal, there was information saying you could nominate someone by petition. The petitions were due not later than April 21st. So that was publicized. What's new is how we're conducting the elections.
I thought the material in the journal actually said 20 days prior to the election.
Let's let the town attorney also weigh in here. Does the council have the ability to change that, Mr. Town Attorney?
Yes. Under the authority issued by the governor, if the town wants to change the deadline because we're moving to voting by mail, the council has the ability to do so. And, generally speaking, the proposed framework of the emergency plan was to allow certain things to happen by certain deadlines so that we can take the next step to prepare for a remote vote by mail election. Ordinarily, the charter provides nominating petitions can be filed 21 days before the election, but I believe the election board thought that would be too compressed in order to accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished. And also given that, as I understand, town residents were already notified that April 21 was the deadline. Do we have a copy of that journal handy?
I'm sure we can get it. I would
I have
like
a
to ask.
question.
I would like to ask the chair of the Board of Elections to comment on the issue of possibly changing the date for nominating petitions.
Our original thinking was just the dates and the deadlines, and that maybe we wouldn't know there was a contested election until April 22nd to print ballots. Now we have a little more time, but we do have deadlines to allow ballots to be mailed out. So that would be the caution. Otherwise, the date is not in stone.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zaft, what's your next question?
So my next question refers to the registration. And when we say a new resident, does that also include people who were residents of the town, but maybe were not eligible to vote last year? For example, someone who was 17 last year and is now 18, do they need to fill out a voter registration card?
Okay, Council, Madam Chair, can you please answer the question?
Yeah, if someone is just turning 18 and is newly eligible, they need to register. And for this election, it's going to be probably easier to register in the town, fill out a town voter registration card. We have no way of knowing otherwise who's now 18 unless they're registered someplace.
Okay, thank you. Chairman Zaft, you have another question.
Yeah, so I would just say, one, we should make sure to put that information in the material that's sent out to residents. Number two being, do we adopt the same guideline that the federal government does, where if you're going to be 18 by November of this year, you're eligible to vote in the town election, or do you have to be 18 by the town election?
Council, Madam Chair, do you know the answer? Maybe the town attorney does.
My understanding is by her election, but that's a town.
Yeah, Mr. Town Attorney, can you respond, please?
Yeah, I agree. It's 18 years of age as of the day of the election, and having resided in the town for at least 14 days prior to the election.
Chairman Zaft, what you're talking about has to do with primaries and elections, not, this is a considered a general election.
Right.
Right.
Okay, and then my next question was, for the voter registration card, is it possible to do that electronically?
Yes, we envision that.
Can we make sure that information is included in what's sent out to residents?
Yes, we will make sure.
Okay. Next question, is there a way for a resident to proactively confirm that they are on the Somerset's rolls?
They could email the election@townofsomerset.com and that can be confirmed.
Great. Can we make sure that's put in there as well?
Okay.
And then only two more questions. The first one being, since assuming there's no petitions come in, Jeffrey's election is going to be uncontested. Is there a benefit, or is it saving time or energy or money to having that removed from the ballot since it's an uncontested election?
Madam Chair.
This question has come up, and I don't want to speak for the town attorney, but it was deemed that the whole ballot should be distributed, including the uncontested so far mayoral voting.
So, Mr. Town Attorney,
That's
what's your
correct.
response?
Based on the wording of the charter amendment and the election rules in the code, it would appear that it is one election. It is one election for the mayor and council members, so it wouldn't make sense to cancel the election in part. So as you've seen on ballots, it's quite common. You'll have one person's name by the office, even if it's uncontested.
Okay,
Right,
thank
just
you.
trying to
Chairman
save money.
Zaft, is it?
One more question. That's it.
Okay.
What sort of provisions are in place for delays in the mail as far as the returning of the ballots, especially given our current Commander-in-Chief's willingness to defund the Postal Service?
Okay, Madam Chair, do you want to respond to that?
This emergency plan says that we have 7 days from June 9th. I'm sorry, I had the deadlines wrong. But we won't have the election results for 7 days because they will count everything. Wait a minute, Matt, do I have this right? They will count everything that's postmarked by June 9th. And then,
Why don't we ask Electech? I would like to ask Electech to comment on that excellent question.
Sure. You usually have a grace period. So if your bylaws or set of rules require a postmark date, then that's what we go by. If it's a received date, that's what we go by. We usually allow a grace period because, as you all know, the Postal Service is not perfect. And sometimes it takes a little longer for ballots to arrive. So you'll just give us a determined cutoff date, and that'll be that.
Okay, Mr. Chairman Zapp, do you have any?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I just, because the way that it's written right now is that everything, this might answer Matt's question, everything that is postmarked by election day is accepted. And if there is no postmark, because we found that sometimes letters, for whatever reason, don't get specifically postmarked, as long as it is received within 7 days of the election day. So that's kind of our buffer there, is a 1 week buffer.
Okay, Chairman Zapp, is that your last question?
Yep, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. So before I open it up to consideration of the agenda item, I want to, because there were so many good questions raised, and I believe that council members might have more questions, I'm going to go around the, I'm going to call on everyone in turn again. Council President Schall, do you have any further questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I need to unmute.
Okay. Do you have any additional questions, Council President Schall?
Yes. So Phyllis, you had said, and I did pull out the journal. It was a front page story in the March issue about the election, but you had said in your comments that potentially we could have a slightly later date and not run into problems with printing ballots. Do you know, can you say how much later than the 21st would work?
This might be an electric question. When they need to be able to print ballots.
Well, can I jump in just very quickly?
Please do.
Perhaps, Mr. Lilly, if you could speak to that. I think the question is, how much lead time do you need to receive the information for the ballot, to print it off and then mail it to people?
By May 19th.
May 19th is the date today currently? Yes.
No.
May 19th is the date the ballots will be mailed to residents.
Okay. And what's the cutoff date currently?
The 21st
Currently, the
of
nomination
April.
deadline.
Can
Okay.
I just,
So that's 4 weeks. I would be comfortable with 3 weeks. Under duress, we could do 2 weeks, but that's a real stretch for us.
Okay, so you're to make sure I understand what you're saying is you would feel like you could handle your usual procedure if the nominating petitions were completed by April 28th.
If our back's against the wall, yeah, we could live with that. We prefer the 21st. That's ideal.
Okay. I thought you had said that 2 weeks away was 2 weeks further out was really too hard and 1 week was not. So, but you're still saying you prefer the 21st.
That would be ideal. If I could do the 28th. I'll leave it up to you guys. We could work with that if we have to. I would not want to go past the 28th.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that your question? Thank you. Council Member Zeughauser.
Let me just, there we go. All right, you're unmuted now, Barbara, sorry.
If I could just clarify that with electric as well, because I thought you said that 3 weeks would be okay, and your back that 2 weeks would be bad, but 3 weeks would be okay, and 3 weeks is actually April 28th.
If I said 2 weeks, I apologize. 2 weeks would, and those 2 weeks in May would be almost impossible for us to turn that around, given our backlog. That's why I'm going with the 3 weeks, and 4 weeks is ideal.
Okay, but you could do 3 weeks, and that would be April 28th. It would be tight, but you could do it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Is that a council
Yes,
member?
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council member Peel.
I don't have any questions for Elect Tech, but I just wanted to mention to Matt Zaff that a lot of the people who might be eligible to vote in this election because they've turned 18 will have already registered to vote when they get if they get their driver's license. A lot of times they register to vote. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
And then the only other thing is that I support the idea of moving the date for petitions for nominations, because I do think we've already sort of sent the message out that the election will be delayed. And I think that people might include the petition date in that concept.
Okay, thank you. Council member Panner, do you have any questions?
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Circo. Do you have any questions?
Hi there. Yes. So thank you. And I'm okay with a 1 week delay. I think you're right. There might be some expectations or misunderstanding on the part of residents that they have more time.
So now's your time to ask a question. You'll have a chance to debate afterward. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, I do. Voter registration procedures that were mailed out or emailed to us, maybe this is a typo, but it says every person who's at least 18 years of age and has resided within the town for at least 14 days next preceding the election. What does that mean, for at least 14 days next preceding the election?
Mr. Town Attorney, can you answer that, please?
That's an antiquated way of saying before. So it means 14 days before the election. You have to have lived in the town for 2 weeks before you can vote in the town election.
But does those 14 days have to be immediately prior to the election?
Yes.
So if I have a son who's in quarantine in Massachusetts or is in Marine Corps officer candidate school 2 weeks prior to the election, he can't vote?
No, he can still vote so long as your house is considered his residence.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, if he's temporarily away, that doesn't mean he's no longer a resident of your household.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. What I would like to do now is, because we are under the gun and we can't delay these decisions, I would like the town attorney to present item by item the things that need to be voted on, and then I will ask for a motion. So, Mr. Town Attorney, what's the first item
Okay.
the council needs to
Thank
vote
you,
on?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, you can choose the order. I would suggest the following order.
Just give me,
first-
just do it item. I want to do it item by item so everybody is understanding what is going on. So what's the first item?
Okay. Whether to change the nomination deadline as currently proposed from April 21 to April 28.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion on that?
I would. Am I muted?
Okay. You're unmuted.
I'll make a motion that we move the deadline for filing a petition to nominate a candidate from April 21st to April 28th.
I'll
Okay,
second
thank
that.
you. Who seconded it?
Barbara.
Okay, thank you. Is there discussion? Hearing none. Okay, I'm going to do roll call per previous one. So that everybody understands what the motion is. Council President Shaw.
Yes.
Council Member Zeughauser.
Yes.
Council Member Peel.
Yes.
Councilor Panner.
Yes.
Councilor Circo.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Town Attorney, next item.
Whether to add to the second bullet under nominating procedures the following sentence. Once the election board receives a nominating petition, the election board will send an email to the nominee confirming receipt.
So moved.
Council President Shaw. Council Member Peel. You
So
made
moved.
the motion. Is there a
Second.
second? Council President Shaw has seconded. Is there discussion? Hearing none. Council President Shaw, what is your vote?
Yes.
Council Member Zuighauser,
Yes.
Council Member Peel,
Yes.
Councilor Panner,
Yes.
Councilor Circo.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes. I'm very impressed with everybody's legislative abilities today. Council, Mr. Town Attorney, what's the next item?
If there are no other edits to the emergency plan, then we need a motion to adopt ordinance number 120, 1-20, to declare a state of emergency and adopt an ordinance to activate this emergency plan for our 2020 town election.
So moved.
Councilor Peel. I'm going to let Councilor Peel be the lead on all these. Who's seconding this? Shaw seconded. Council, is there discussion? Hearing none. Council President Shaw, your vote.
Yes.
Council Member Zuighauser,
Yes.
Councilmember Peel,
Yes.
Councilmember Panner,
Yes.
Councilmember Circo.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Town Attorney, the next item.
Now we need a motion to authorize the town manager to enter into a contract with Electech in accordance with the submitted proposal.
So moved.
Councilmember Peel, thank you. And can I hear a second from Council President Shaw? Is there discussion? Hearing none. Councilor President Shaw, your vote.
Yes.
Councilmember Zuighauser,
Yes.
Councilmember Peel,
Yes.
Councilmember Panner,
Yes.
Councilmember Circo.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Town Attorney?
That's it, unless you want to heap additional praise on us.
No,
Oh,
no, you all get praise.
So he,
I want to thank everybody, especially
Mr. Mayor,
Board of Election. Yes, sir.
just before we go, there is one piece of housekeeping that I think we need the council to take action on.
Which is?
That the town attorney reminded me of. Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that Maryland law requires us, when we introduce and adopt a budget, that it needs to be introduced and adopted by ordinance. And so Ron has drafted language. So this is essentially just adopting language in an ordinance form of what was introduced at the last meeting of the budget.
Right, a non-codified ordinance to introduce the budget.
But that's just introduced by a council member, right, Mr. Town Attorney?
Correct. Yeah, we just need a council
Okay.
motion to introduce the ordinance to approve the budget, which will be approved at the May meeting.
Okay, Council President Shaw, will you introduce the budget ordinance?
Absolutely.
Thank you. If there's no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you to the outstanding Board of Elections. All
here, here.
Thank you.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, we see you all again soon. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Jeffrey, do you want to talk by phone after
Yeah,
this?
I'll call you in a minute. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.